This is Torchlight. It's the first of the 3 games I'll review for my series. I'm Martin from Martin in the Next Dimension. Torchlight has some pretty decent 3D. It's fairly easy to set up. I think it runs without having to change it to window mode, although you can, and then use borderless full screen also would work. In general, there's almost no flux that I can tell. By flux, I mean either it shifts back and forth 2D to 3D, or the 3D itself shifts different levels based on what's popping on the screen. From what I can tell, there's not a lot of it in this gameplay. As you can see here, this close-up view of my character. There's not a whole lot, so I'd say the flux is minor at best, and it's mostly in the inventory menus and things like that. You can see here I'm about to do the 3D rotation thing. There's a little bit of an accuracy thing. You can tell it's kind of trying to figure it out as it rotates. So that's a little bit funky, but not really that bad. Really minor. I didn't really consider it to be much of a distraction at all. There are a few places later that have some accuracy issues where the things are above the ground or whatever the case may be. They're just not quite at the right level and depth. But for the most part, negligible for this game. Glitches, the only thing that sticks out is that mouse cursor. It's doing the multiplied mouse cursor, which is a little hard in these games to deal with. So you can see it make it a little tricky sometimes to click on the right thing. But that's really the only major glitch I saw. Occasionally this screen will flux a little bit, but that's it. Value in general. So I think it does add value to the game, but I wouldn't say that it's a must-have. I think it was decent and nice 3D, but not approaching the level you would get with like a real 3D driver like GO11 or 3D Vision. Still pleasant enough and non-invasive. The flux is really good, so you could easily play it and enjoy it. So I'd say overall the pros of the game are that it's very stable. It's very stable. It very seldom does it flux. This is where you'll see some of the accuracy issues. There are a few things like that bridge is slightly higher than it should be. There's going to be some things that are above the ground where they might normally be. But in general, the flux is almost negligible and makes it kind of pretty pleasant to not have to have it always fighting. The cons, that stupid cursor. That cursor is the biggest one. I think maybe a little bit of the wow factor is missing, but it's not too bad. In general, I think it's a pretty decent working version of 3D. So I think overall my rating for this one, I think I'm going to go ahead with B tier. B tier being it's really nice to play it this way. You maybe not feel like it, so you won't play it that way, but in general, I could play the whole game like this with minor discomfort. That's a B tier. Like pleasant enough that I could play the whole thing without it getting too much in my face. Do you want to mention that there are probably alternatives? You could probably get GO11 working with this if I don't know what the shaders would be like. And you could probably get Vorpex working. And normally what I do for Vorpex is I set it to desktop. You can change the monitor to be desktop, and then it will show in side by side instead of the VR screen you would see normally. I prefer that mode because it's a little bit easier on me to control. So this is Torchlight. I think I'd recommend it. It's pretty nice. Second game up today is Alex Kidd, which is a remaster. What's it? Alex Kidd in Miracle World, sorry, DX. It's a remaster of the original Alex Kidd game, which I think was the original Nintendo game. But this is Alex Kidd. Setting it up was pretty easy. It didn't really have any problems. I did notice when it comes to the flux, though, it is a little bit more iffy on the flux. It's not horrible, but it is noticeable. So every now and then it will flux in and out, and it's unpleasant when it does it. There are some things you can do. You can put a shader on there to maybe even it out some, but you can see this is here in the game, and there's a little bit of 3D. So the 3D depth is, I think I would just say okay. It's not very wowing, right? Nothing really pops that hard. Even the backgrounds don't really fall far back. So I think in general, like you see there, I checked the 3D depth, and not super impressive, honestly. I feel like it just doesn't wow me like a lot of the other games. Even simple 2D scrollers seem to have done a better job than this. So I'd say the 3D depth itself is kind of alright, I guess. But the 3D accuracy, I'd have to say in general is mostly okay. We're going to see here when we get to a waterfall here soon that it doesn't handle it very well. This is the 2D version. You can switch back and forth. But I mean, this kind of looks okay, but 3D 3D conversion doesn't do well with flat textures. You have to put some color in there. You'd have to run like a shader over this, a scanline shader or CRT shader to make that be a little bit more accurate. There's no real glitches happening, so that's good. I think in general the value is pretty minimal. I mean, it's there, you can see it a little bit of 3D depth, but it's not anything that's going to wow you, and it's not going to compel me to play it this way. If I had a 2D or a 3D monitor, that might be one thing, but putting on the headset, loading up virtual desktop, I'm not going to do it for this game. That's just not going to be a thing. I think overall the pros are it's not too unstable. It's pretty stable, but the cons are it's just kind of meh, honestly. So I think overall that I'm going to give it a rating of C tier. I think that's, yeah, if you really want to, you can. There's nothing wrong with it, but in general, it's not going to bring a whole lot to your game. I just didn't find it overly impressive, to tell you the honest truth. I don't even know if I'd play this game as it is, but here we are. And for the last game today, we were playing the Dead Space remake. That's right, somebody's homebrew demake of the Dead Space into a PlayStation 1 style. So I just happened to have this, and I thought, oh, let's try this and see how this works. And here we are. Setting it up wasn't too hard. You just have to make sure it's can be windowed. But in other words, it just works pretty much out the gate. So I'm going to say that flexing wise, it's pretty decent. It has to battle a little bit with some of these purposely wobbly textures are probably in a way helping it out. But in general, I don't remember a lot of flexing while playing this. Just not as much depth as I would like, honestly. And I think that might have to do with the way it warbles and the low quality textures and stuff like that. But it does have depth. I don't want to pretend it doesn't. Like, there is a tangible sense of depth. I would give it, like, good. I think I would give it decent, actually. I think decent depth, that's what it's got going on for. It's got fairly decent depth, and accuracy in general I think is pretty good. There are a couple spots here a little bit later that we get up to where the accuracy isn't super awesome, but like in this section here, everything is pretty much on mark where it should be. So you can see there, like your character feels like it's 3D. When he aims it, it's kind of hits a little better. Oh, hello, dude. How you doing? Don't mind me. Let me get that arm off you there for a second. I think I shot its head off. Oh, well. Anyways. So, it's not necessarily going to super wow you. So, I don't know if this is going to really drive anybody to use this version. But the 3D's there, and it doesn't seem to be too unstable, right? It's really stable. So any instability you see is programmed into this demake to look like an old school PlayStation 1. But like those numbers feel like they're at depth. His lasers go in depth. That's nice. So I think this is coming up as a room where the accuracy gets a little bit squirrely, but in general it's fairly decent. I think for the most part the depth and the accuracy are both decent. Although the accuracy might be more good, but there are no real glitches. So you don't use your mouse in this game. Well, you do use your mouse, but it doesn't show up as a cursor. So we don't have that, which is the primary glitch we come across. And not really much else as far as glitches that aren't part of the actual game, per se. And value, I'm going to put the value as decent also. It's nice to have. Adds a little extra vibe to it. It's a little simple, right? Like some of the old 3D side-scrolling games that we had loaded up before, where it was fairly simple. Even these screens have a little bit of 3D in it. It's battling the incredibly low resolution. So, and I think when you're talking about the value to the game, there is value. Like, you feel the 3D in this. It's pretty nice. It's just as it's a simple game, so, and all the wobbling distracts a little bit from the 3D effect, I think some, but it works just fine. It's not really a knock on the 3D effect, more so that just the game was programmed purposely to be that way. I think that I would play this game like that for sure. For value wise, I'd say, you know, it's got a decent value. You know, it's a very pleasant kind of way. Generally, if we're talking about pros, I'd say it's rock solid. Honestly, I don't think I've seen it flux once yet, which is fantastic, right? It has fairly consistent 3D throughout and is clean. It runs no problem. It has no frame rate problems or anything like that, outside of my inability to play the game right. I think I was trying to figure out how to use that table, but it doesn't have a lot of like overt haloing that distracts sometimes in these games. It's there, but you don't like. I just thought to talk about it right now. I hadn't been paying attention and had it stand out to me. So, but I love seeing the 3D when things like where you see all the doorways blocked by a bunch of junk and you can see the depth in it. Hey, peekaboo, dude, how are you doing? I'll take one arm and one leg if you don't mind. How did I miss him? That's crazy. Cons. I think the cons are more with the game itself than with the 3D implementation, to tell you the honest truth. If you don't like wobbly polygons and super low res textures, that's going to be the only thing you're going to have a problem with this game. Oh, my guy went to a locked door. Isn't that fun? But otherwise, again, like I said before, I feel like the 3D quality is really solid. So I'm going to take a John into the bathrooms here real quick. You can see how they show up in 3D. Delightful. I mean, that's what you wanted, right? You wanted full stereoscopic depth for dirty toilets. Simple geometry though, so it's pretty easy for OWL3D to handle simple geometry. In general, it's done a great job with it in all the games I've tested, because it's just not hard for it to figure out what to make 3D and what not to make 3D. So simple geometry games work really well. You can even see the space behind that little grate. That's nice. This is one of the more complex rooms that I got to before I stopped playing. You can see up here that it's pretty pleasing. I think if I'm going to rate it, which I am, that's the whole point of this series, right? I'm going to rate it. I'm going to give Dead Space a B. It's B tier for sure, because everything works well, and it's really not on OWL3D's fault that it's like that. But Dead Space Demastered, I'm going to give it a B tier. It plays well, it's enjoyable. I could easily see playing the whole thing this way. It just, could be a little bit more wow, and it's really honestly held back by the game. It's less so OWL3D's conversion, it's the game itself that draws away from it some. But it's still fairly enjoyable, and I would recommend to play it this way if you decide you want to play this. And that's the last of the game for this video. So, till next time, y'all have a good one.